Get it right up there.
Here?
Yeah. Yeah.
That did it? Okay.
Did it.
Okay, I'm pleased today to have as our speaker Angie Manuel, and she's the interpretive naturalist up at Prophetstown State Park. Yay.
All right.
Angie grew up in Warsaw, Indiana, and then drifted on down to Ball State and got her 4-year degree. And then she went over to Bloomington to get her master's in natural resources. So she is an IU grad, I guess.
So my diploma says.
I asked her for any other tidbits. She says, oh, she'd throw out a couple, so I'm going to let her do it. Angie Manuel.
Oh, let me come this way.
I think you got to keep it about this far away.
Yes, just the way we got lots of pens there.
All right, can everybody hear me? Yeah, all righty. Usually I don't even need a microphone. I was very blessed with big lungs, and it matches the rest of me, so it goes without saying. I love to be in front of an audience, and I really have been so grateful to get to also become familiar with this community. You said you're new to the area. I'm also just a few years into living in this area. And I've been in several parts of the state, but I really think that Prophetstown State Park might be my final state park if they'll have me for the rest of my career. But I have just fallen in love with our state parks. If anybody is not from Indiana, new to Indiana, just know that you have a real jewel here in this state. A lot of our other state parks in the country have struggled with budgets and, have seen tough times, but Hoosiers have supported our state parks really well, so I want to thank all of you in the community who have continued to support our state parks. And it's because of that that I can continue to do the work that I do. It's because of what state parks do that lets people know the unusual things that we get to do. I got an email from this one over here who said, hey, I saw that you were in an article in the magazine Outdoor Indiana. Has anybody ever gotten that subscription before? It's a really neat little, every other month magazine with beautiful photographs and unusual articles about fish and wildlife and things going on around the state, the nature preserves and animals and plants and people in the DNR and in other nature agencies. So he had seen that I was part of an article about turkey vultures. And he said, boy, that's just the neatest thing I've ever read. And he said he kind of likes them too, and thought that this might be a fun topic today. Normally I come here, I think I've come here at least once or twice now, if any of you remember that, and I typically talk about the park, what's going on at the park, or the history of the park. And the park still has really new and different things happening, so anytime you have questions about that, you can ask me. I think I got park maps to rows 1 and 2, but I maybe didn't get it to row 3 over here. Just know that I have lots of park maps if you'd like one, and the rec guide if you'd like to know about other state parks too. But today I thought we'd talk about turkey vultures since it was recently in the Outdoor Indiana magazine, and it is an unusual topic that most people aren't familiar with, or in some regards they don't care to know a lot about. Because turkey vultures, of course, are not the most desirable looking critters out there. And that's why I find them quite unusual to talk about. It's actually really easy to talk about beautiful animals and beautiful flowers and animals who can fly the highest or who jump the furthest or set records for doing this or are the most spectacular at doing that. It's so easy to talk about those animals, and people adore and love those animals. But we often kind of turn a blind eye to the animals that are as equally as important, but maybe don't fit the bill, no pun intended, for being stars in our wildlife community as well. And so I kind of have a fondness for turkey vultures. Not that this came out of nowhere. A bird is a bird. Sometimes they have their own niche and they do their thing in the wildlife community. But I, being a program person at the park, and we see people who come to our programs of every size and shape and age and interest. Obviously, I see a lot of youngsters. And one of the ways to connect with youngsters, especially goofy little kids, which is exactly what I was some 40 years ago. I was a goofy little kid, and I thought that everything gross was the funnest thing to talk about. The grosser, the better. The weirder, the more revolting. I couldn't stop talking about it. Obviously, my parents were none too pleased about that, but it was something I think every little 6-year-old or 8-year-old just can't get enough of, is talking about gross stuff. And so as I came into this job, and I was exposed to all the really amazing things that wildlife has to offer, the best and the most beautiful and the highest flyers and the furthest jumpers, I was reminded that I also love the gross stuff. And I found a lot of animals in researching wildlife that really are the best at that. You know, we do a lot of programs at the park about animal adaptations, about how animals are just perfectly designed to live in their environment. But again, all of those that seem to come up tend to be the best at this or the best at that or what have you. But we often forget that being the best at being gross is also the best, you know. You still get an award, even if it's the best at being gross. And that's kind of what this article in Outdoor Indiana was about. It was not just what does the turkey vulture do for our ecosystem, but kind of weird, fun facts about this bird. And so I get to do a program at the park actually called Animals Do the Grossest Things, about animals who puke and animals who poop and animals who just do amazing, gross things. But of course, when we teach kids that, it's not just about being silly and disgusting and what have you, but we teach kids that animals really only do anything for one reason. Does anybody know the one-word answer to that? Survival, absolutely. So this guy, of course, never wanted to grow up to be the king of gross, but he did get that badge because it's all about how he's going to survive best. So that's what we teach kids. Gross is still about survival. Any animal does anything in their behavior because of survival. So I thought I would talk today about the common turkey vulture that we have here. And I can't imagine a single person in the room who hasn't seen this guy in the sky or seen him on the side of the road chewing on some mealtime snack. A really, really common bird for Indiana. But there are, like I said, some fun facts, and those are the ones I would like to touch on. So obviously I have the turkey vulture. A different name, anybody call this bird by a different name? Buzzard. Buzzard, absolutely. So buzzard is another common name. Oops, I of course went the wrong way. Buzzard is another one. Now if you go to other parts of this planet, different continents, different countries, they even sometimes refer to this bird in the hawk family. So regionally, you may hear different words used, but it is in fact a turkey vulture. And turkey vultures here in the United States and North America are what are referred to as, say, a New World turkey vulture. They're slightly different than other vultures in Europe and other countries. But this is our vulture, or our buzzard, for the North American continent. It belongs to a group of birds that are meat eaters. And again, this might be a little bit of a vocabulary test for you today. Does anybody know what group of birds this belongs to in the meat-eating category? Raptors, excellent, yeah. It's a meat-eating bird, raptors. So other birds that belong to the raptor family are? Hawks. Falcons. Eagles.
Who's answering all the questions?
Yeah, we have some nature nut over here. Owls, outstanding, yeah. Hawks, eagles, owls, falcons, and this bird, the turkey vulture, who is in not those other categories, hawks, eagles, falcons, or owls, but he eats a slightly different type of meat. They are what you refer to as birds of prey, animals who actively search out their food and kill their food. He belongs to a slightly different category because he's eating what? Carrion, excellent. Thank you for that scientific word there. I heard some road kills and dead stuff out here, but carrion is the actual scientific word for it. So while he is still classified in the bird of prey or raptor family, just know that he doesn't really actively go after his food. He prefers a nice lazy lunch right over here. But nonetheless, he's still strongest at what he does. So a beautiful flyer this bird is, and probably the number one thing, and I have to tell you, I've made this mistake 100 times in my life, and I still make it today. It happened just a few weeks ago when we were driving out in one of the really remote areas of the prairie, and we saw two large dark birds up ahead of us, and I instantly thought they were turkey vultures, just by the dark color and the size. But as those birds got a lot closer to us, I was with my coworker and saw that these two birds were sort of interacting with each other. I thought, that's not a turkey vulture. And when we looked in this direction, these two birds were interacting so much that they locked talons and did a spiral. Who knows what bird that is?
Eagles.
Eagles. Excellent, excellent. So sometimes it's not just about seeing a large, dark bird in the sky. It's knowing a little bit of behavior. It's also knowing and picking up some other characteristics. But here is a beautiful turkey vulture, and we're talking big birds. The only bird bigger than this in the sky in Indiana is the eagle. This is the second largest in the raptor family. Anybody here approximately a 6-foot person? Very good. You want to stand up for us? Yeah? And show us your wingspan. Very nice. So you're talking about a 6-foot wingspan of a bird. And if you didn't know it, however tall you are, typically your fingertip to fingertip is also that height. So he just showed us how big a beautiful turkey vulture could be. So a nice, large, soaring bird. But one of the ways to tell the difference between that eagle or that hawk or this turkey vulture is that turkey vultures, and this is how we teach kids, vulture, of course, starts with the letter V, and when you see this bird flying in the sky, oftentimes you see its wings not straight out flat, like you would see a hawk. Hawks soar with relatively flat wings. Turkey vultures, which are not the strongest of flyers, tend to go in a slightly V-shaped wing pattern. That's a really quick, easy way to tell. And again, because they're not the strongest of flyers, they tend to use what natural thing going on to help them with flying? What do they use? Air currents, those nice thermal drafts. And so when they hold it in this V-shaped pattern, they tend to wobble because they're catching the drafts and they're moving around. So look for that V shape. It's just a slight V shape. And look for that little wobble sometimes. Instantly you're going to know you're looking at turkey vultures and not hawks. Again, I don't know how many times I've said, oh, look at the eagle in the sky. And then there's 8 of them. And you go, wow, 8 eagles. It is the jackpot of the day. Then they get a little closer and you're like, oh, turkey vulture. And of course, I say when they get a little closer, because what unique, distinct feature of the turkey vulture really gives it its name? That red head, that red skin-covered red head. No feathers on the head, just that red skin. And that's probably why people think it's a fairly unattractive bird. But it is what, of course, helps it survive. Remember, all of these things are about survival. Not just being gross, not just being ugly. These things actually contribute to the success of this bird. But it's not always born with that perfect red head. You can see one on the right with a reddish head, and one on the left with its still brown-covered head. And that's because the head isn't completely bald. It does have really tiny little feathers on it. It's because a juvenile, a little 1-year-old moving into its 2nd-year-old, still has this brown head. And so it sometimes gets confused. Oh, that's not a turkey vulture. Well, yeah, it is. It's just a youngster. It's in the very same way that a bald eagle does not actually get its beautiful white bald head until age 4 or 5. So again, that causes some confusion. But the beautiful turkey vulture is this, a lot of people would say black, but actually it's just a dark brown, beautiful bodied bird. And again, they don't start out looking like that red head. Yeah. Yeah. We like to say that all babies are cute, but as we all know, not all babies are cute. This was taken by DNR photographer Frank Oliver, who's a local guy, if anybody knows him. And he was able to snatch this photo from a cute little cavity in a tree. Just a wonderful little couple of babies there. And their nests, of course, or their clutches of eggs can range from 1, 2, 3, 4 babies. 4 would be a big clutch of babies. But nonetheless, turkey vulture moms are pretty good. Like I said, they can provide a lot of food for their babies. Because their food's not running away. That's kind of the benefit. Lots of food out there, and it doesn't run away from you. So she has lots of food to provide to her babies, and they are often very successful. So turkey vulture babies don't look a lot like their parents when they're youngsters. But again, when they do grow up, they are going to have this brilliant, beautiful red head. And that is its characteristic indicator that you are looking at a turkey vulture. But the things about this bird that make it quite different than other birds, obviously if you're talking about birds like songbirds or woodpeckers or or other birds, what makes it a raptor is that beak, that curved, hooked beak, which is for tearing meat away from the flesh. And the hawks and the eagles and the owls and the falcons have that too. So that's what does help it in that category of birds. But what makes this bird also quite different is, can you see those huge nostril holes on the top of its beak? Very few other birds have that. All birds have tiny little nostrils, but it's mostly for breathing and other things, but it is not for smelling. Almost all birds have just about zero sense of smell. This bird has a magnificent sense of smell, and of course it goes hand in hand with what it's eating. You know, it's not a bird who has phenomenal eyesight like the hawks and eagles and falcons and owls. It doesn't rely solely on its eyesight. It relies on this right here, because what it's eating is nice and odoriferous. So having a good sense of smell does it. It's also fun to know that, again, most birds have no sense of smell. So that old kind of myth about, oh, if I touch a baby bird that's fallen out of its nest and I put it back in the nest, the mom's going to abandon it because it has my smell on it, that is quite false. Most birds have no sense of smell, and they could care less that you touch that baby before the mom gets it back. This is the only one who really cares about smell, and they do it magnificently. And it's because they're eating all that smelly dead stuff. And so you can see here another image of an adult on the left, a mature adult with the red head, and a juvenile on the right, that dark head. And down by the beach or down by the riverside where you often see them, especially they will bring their juveniles down to areas that are really prolific, so there's lots of food sources. And you can see something has died there on the left. It appears to be something else in the bird category, and they're obviously going to make lunch or breakfast or dinner out of it. More than likely lunch, because turkey vultures are not early risers. They really have to wait a while to get warmed up. Turkey vultures are migrators. They don't spend winters here in Indiana, although I would think that they could be successful, because one of the uniquenesses about their body is this dark coloring. And so when they are cold, when they've come back early from migration, or when they're kind of delayed from leaving, they have that nice dark body to act as solar panels to heat themselves up. So they have that ability. Another one of the cousins of the vultures who lives here in Indiana, but only in southern Indiana, we rarely see them up this north, is the black vulture, a slightly smaller vulture. So sometimes a juvenile turkey vulture gets confused with a black vulture. And obviously you can see the difference. These actually tend to be quite playful vultures. We hear comments all the time in southern Indiana through some of my DNR co-workers. They'll send photos of black vultures who found a beach ball on the river, and they'll just play with it for hours and until one of them pokes it, and then the fun is over. So the beach ball is gone. But black vultures are also in the exact same family. They're doing the exact same thing. They just happen to look a little bit different. But again, a beautiful bird when you're talking about the beauty in what they do for the ecosystem. They are eating everything. And you said you titled this program what in the news bulletin?
Merry Maids.
Merry Maids. Yes, Merry Maids. If it were not for turkey vultures and other scavengers, but these tend to be sort of the top of the scavenging family, if it were not for them, just think of how many carcasses would be piling up in our natural areas. And I don't mean just our natural areas, but on roadsides and trailways. Has anybody ever had to go a whole week without their trash getting picked up? Or 2 weeks without their trash getting picked up? Think of how annoying and stinky that gets after a while. If it weren't for these cleaning up our woodlands and cleaning up our sideways, this place would be a very stinky, disgusting thing to move around in. So I, for one, thank them for cleaning up all these animals who do die every single day in our wild places. So thanks to them. They are, in fact, I call them the garbage men of the forest, but I kind of like your title, the Merry Maids. Merry Maids out there. So again, these guys are beautiful flyers, different flyers, but they are beautiful flyers, and they do come and go in Indiana. They are migratory birds. So they use their wings like solar panels when they need to warm up, but that warming up also plays to their plays negatively on them during the summer, because if you are a real dark-bodied animal, how efficient are you at staying cool in July? Are you very good at it? No, you're not. And because these aren't water birds, they certainly can't head down to the pond or the river or the creek or something and take a dip and get cooled off. So here's where the part of the program turns a little bit more towards the 8-year-old mentality. We're going to dive right into the gross things about a turkey vulture. I'm glad to see most everybody is done with their meal because this is where it gets a little shaky. For this bird who does need to get himself cooled down in the summertime, he thinks about the same elements of, hey, wouldn't it be great if I could take a dip in the water and cool off? Or anybody here ever, done mowing their lawn or have a nice, hot, sweaty work day? And what is it you want to do when you come home but take a shower? And when you're getting out of the shower, what is that feeling that you get? Cool. It's nice and cool. And what's happening with that cool sensation? What's actually happening? It's evaporation. So what can the turkey vulture do in order to get some evaporation happening on his body? Again, put your 8-year-old brains up.
Defecates down his leg.
Outstanding. Poops and pees down his legs. You got it. Now I used all those I used the 4-letter words. He used the good word. I said I was going to go into 8-year-olds, so poop and pee is the word I'm using. Yeah. So these guys, not only having that very baldish head, also have very bald legs. Just skin is exposed. But it's a great place to have a liquid touch the skin, evaporate, and cool the body. And scientists have actually studied birds doing this very behavior, and it does allow their body temperature to drop just enough to stay comfortable. Peeing down your leg has 2 benefits, not just cooling you down, but if this guy is an animal who is eating dead stuff all the time and standing on his lunch, who has usually been dead for hours or days or even weeks, why else does peeing on your feet benefit you?
Clean them.
It cleans them, absolutely, yeah. Urine is slightly acidic, slightly antiseptic, and will kill or at least hinder some of the diseases and things that occur. So pooping and peeing down your legs is a good thing when it comes to this guy. I wish that was true in the human world, but it's not, so we'll have to leave that to him. Okay? So obviously he is cleaning up all that stuff, and he's cleaning up the real undesirable stuff too. Not a lot of scavengers will go after a skunk. Very few animals will go after a skunk even in its live form. The great horned owl will, but this guy will eat even skunk in its deceased form, which means that it's extra stinky. That musk is everywhere. So they are big-time merry maids and garbage men, and we have to thank them for that. So this beautiful bird, like I said, not only has that kind of gross factor going for him when it is all about survival, but that ugly head is also for a purpose as well. Nobody ever wants to strive to be the ugliest in the group. That's never been in somebody's yearbook, ugliest in the class. But why does a big, ugly, bald head work for this guy?
Aerodynamics?
Aerodynamics is a good guess, but I don't think so.
Makes him less desirable.
Less desirable, unattractive. Again, if being unattractive were an award, that'd be great. But there is a reason that no hair on the head works for him.
Aerodynamics.
Say it louder.
He doesn't mess his feathers up.
He doesn't mess his feathers up. You got to remember that a turkey vulture, if you've got a big roadkill deer, he's going to jam his head right in the gut and just be looking around for the choicest of things. He's not eating every part of the animal. If it's there, he's going to go for the kidneys and the liver and the heart. So jamming that head with a beautiful head of feathers, not going to work for him, because when that head comes out, it's going to be just covered with blood to that other animal, even though that animal wants the carrion as well. So his goal is to get away from that carrion when other scavengers come up, when that coyote comes up, when that eagle comes up. And so this bird, if he's been gorging at an animal for minutes on end, or if he's had a leisurely 10, 20, 30 minutes, and has a giant belly full of dead food in his body, gross dead food, he is not going to be the best flyer. He's not the best flyer to start with. And with a giant belly of food, that makes him equally, having trouble flying. So what is it this guy could do in order to become a better flyer? Hey, I saw some charades going on over here. Yeah, very good. What did you do?
I threw up.
Very good. He throws up. He is the barfer. Yeah. I use lots of 4-letter words, poop and pee and barf and turd and all other things in this program. But he is a master barfer. This is not by choice. He doesn't want to give up that food he just consumed, but it's either give up the food he just ate or lose his life. So giving up the food is best. So up comes the pile of food. He's now a lighter bird and can take off. But that works for him in two ways. Not only is he a lighter bird to take off, but that nice pile of food right here is attractive to that other thing coming up. That coyote would gladly eat this pile of barfed up meat as opposed to chasing a turkey vulture who does still have a hooked beak and nice talons to go after the coyote. So this pile of barf is a nice little gift for somebody else who wants to run after him. So, like I said, if you gotta be good at something, why not be good at gross? Because this guy from head to toe is gross. A head that looks like a turkey, a mouth that is just spewing left and right, you know, legs that have poop and pee down them. It's all about survival. And like I said, this world, this state could not live without this bird. They are eating everything because they're nice big birds, so they're consuming a lot. Not just a little bit that a raccoon does here and a little bit that a fox does there. This guy's eating really large quantities. He's taking care of the deer and unfortunately some of the pets like big dogs and some of the other big animals. He's taking care of this. So we have him to thank for a lot of things. So his beauty, you need to find in other ways. Okay? So the beautiful turkey vulture, like I said, next time you see him flying in the sky, you can give him a little thank you. And I keep using the word he. I don't know why that is. There's beautiful lady vultures out there too, and they're doing their hard work. So like I said, it is a love of mine to talk about this bird because I get to get in touch with my little gross 8-year-old self and teach people about an animal that is oftentimes not always thought of as deserving of our applause. So I really thank the turkey vulture for the work it does, and thank you for letting me talk about him because, like I said, not everybody wants me to talk about the turkey vulture. It's a really neat little bird. Because there are a few not always positive, not just if you get past the weird, gross, ugly aspects, not always the best neighbor. Anybody have any stories about how the turkey vulture is not a good neighbor? There's actually quite a few stories around the state. Do you have any?
Well, mine's actually from California.
Sure.
We were driving up in the mountains, and he was in the center of the road, and so my dad, he wasn't going to move.
No.
Oh, no.
Nope.
His wings were wider than our station wagon, his head's up there, and he is just like, I am not backing down. So, can be amazingly aggressive.
Yeah, they're bullies.
Him.
Yeah. They're gonna get that food. They hiss a lot too.
Oh,
Boy, we didn't even talk about their really awful vocal quality. They're not nearly as vocally talented as you all. Yes.
Oh.
Do they nest like the eagle does? Have their own place that they go back and forth to?
They do go back to similar ones, but they are not nest builders.
Okay.
They're pretty lazy in that category. They like to find cavities or just rotten areas. I mean, I don't think turkey vultures are ground nesters. Anybody else know that? I don't know a lot about their nesting habits except for their young, but they are not really nest builders all that much.
How much does a mature turkey vulture weigh?
The weight of a turkey vulture is around 4 or 5 pounds. Yep. 4, 5, 6 pounds, maybe a big one. Yep. An eagle really only weighs 8 or 9 pounds tops. So we're not talking, think about a bowling ball. My bowling ball is about 10 pounds, and that would really outweigh any of these guys. So, yeah.
Explain the circling.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of people think that circling turkey vultures means something's dead on the ground. And you know, that very well might be the case sometimes, but more times than not, it's them grabbing those thermal currents, really trying to save energy, because they have to be up there in order to see and smell their food. So if they have to be up there for long periods of time, they use the thermal currents to save energy. And so they just circle in these thermal currents. That's the circling pattern that you see going on there. Yeah. Not that they're scoping out the injured or dying, but that is what happens. Yes?
What do they do with like if they find a diseased animal who has died naturally? Can they detect that, or what?
They could care less about diseases. Turkey vultures can eat anything, whether it's been laying there for a week, whether it's full of disease, whether it's already infested with insects, they have a completely different, almost ironclad stomach. It really just does not affect them that much. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there any difference between the male and the female? Like you know, cardinals, the male is bright red and the...
Yeah, he asked if there's a color difference between males and females. Not a color difference at all. Slight size difference, though. Although it's not real drastic. With something like hawks or owls or eagles, typically the girl is a lot bigger, almost a third bigger in those categories. But with turkey vultures, the difference isn't too much at all.
As long as they know.
Yeah, as long as they know, that's totally fine. Yeah. As long as they find the love of their life, I don't care. Yeah. Yes.
We've had a subcommittee meeting over here. We're going to grant you an award for the most colorful program.
Outstanding. Colorful without cussing. That's what I like. Because I often start this program, if I'm talking about all the gross animals, I kind of give a little cautionary tale that I'm going to use a bunch of 4-letter words today. But again, I've already used some of those, so you know what I'm talking about. Colorful, but classy. That's what I mean. But one of the reasons, we'll go ahead and take a couple more, and then I'll tell you about why things the DNR hears about why these don't often make the best companions in your neighborhood. What were you going to add?
Did I understand you correctly that you are giving a program for children?
We do this program occasionally at the park.
Oh,
Again,
okay.
I often don't just do it on turkey vultures, but I often do it on animals do the grossest things.
Oh,
So we
okay.
talk about a lot of different animals. He's just part of the bunch when it
I
comes to
see.
that.
So you don't have that program coming up soon?
No, I don't.
Okay.
And how many people envision taking their grandchildren to go in here?
Yeah. Because we make that kid come up, and I make that kid, especially I choose the kid who has the biggest, craziest head of hair. And I make the kid stick his head under my deer pelt and go around and around and around. And then the kid has to pull up and his hair is just standing up. So it really, I don't think I can get any of you to do that for me. That's why the 8-year-old has to do it for me. Yeah. Good. Yes, in the back. Lifespan. 20, 25 years. Yeah. 20, 25 years. That's pretty common in the raptor family. Your eagles are also in that lifespan. Yeah.
Do they also utilize the sun on their bald heads to kill the germs?
Absolutely. Because there are no feathers up there, the direct sunlight on the skin on their head dries any of that muck out real fast. Absolutely. Yeah. You got it. Yes, I'm trying to use polite 4-letter words. But what I wanted to mention was when these guys are in groups together, they do often, they're very social birds. They have where they nest. They're quite social. You'll find lots of them together. Where they hang in trees and roost for the night, they're very social together. How could that be a problem if they show up in your subdivision? Oh, did I not mention poop and puke and all those things? Yeah, they tend not to be the best neighbors. They're also a little on the loud side. Remember, they hiss and squawk a lot. So they tend not to be the best neighbors. However, because they belong to the raptor family, are you allowed to do anything to stop them? No. Not a thing. You can't even hurt, I would like to say, a hair on their head, but they don't really have that. You can't really do anything. I used to work at Mound State Park in Anderson, Indiana, and bless their hearts, this really unfortunate subdivision of people had a nice group of turkey vultures come in. And they were trying everything, fireworks, and they were making loud noises, and they started to make too much noise because the authorities got wind of it. And so you cannot be a nuisance to a protected bird in the raptor family. Hawks, eagles, owls, falcons, and vultures. You can't harm them, disrupt them, disturb them in any way. So luckily the neighbors had been just annoying enough that it sent them on their way, but not without them leaving a pretty big mess for the neighborhood to clean up. But yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Angie?
Yes.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting. I'm sure a lot of our folks are a little surprised.
Yeah.
But I can't help you with the buzzards much, but with this, you can look for owls.
That's
at
right.
night.
That's right. You got it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I've used this before, so
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
That's it? Okay. Next week, we're going to have Dave Heath here, and he's going to talk about the Community Corrections Department.